Hello and welcome to Inside and Out with Patricia Stark. I am Patricia Stark, joined as always by my co-pilot Lynn Cimetti. Hi, Lynn.
Good morning, Patricia, and all of you out there.
It is an absolutely gorgeous day outside today, and a day where we feel like maybe nothing could go wrong. But Murphy's Law, it usually does. And I'm speaking from experience. My maiden name was Murphy, and Murphy's Law haunted my life. But the good thing about Murphy's Law is that usually, even though the things that can go wrong usually do or probably will, somehow everything always works out in the end. So our topic today is some confidence quick tips. Things that will help you when the littlest things go wrong that can derail your day. Let's say that you're on your way out to a big job interview or a dinner or an event or someplace where, as we talk about always, you want to put your best foot forward, and some little thing goes wrong that can just really throw you off. Maybe you break a heel, maybe you lose an earring backing, maybe you get that run in your stocking, maybe you can't find your keys or there's not enough gas in the car. All these different things that can cause issues, shoe scuffs, you name it, just anything that will make you feel like you're focusing on that, which could be the smallest, stupidest thing, but you're going to focus on it rather than focusing at the job at hand or wherever it is that you have to go to be at your best, to be on your AAA game. So what I would like to do is ask our listeners also if you have any confidence quick tips. Now, go into your past, go into the recesses of your mind, hear your mother's voice, hear your grandmother's voice, any tips that they had over the years that said, this is how you remove a stain, this is how you fix a scuff, this is how you fix a broken yada yada, whatever it may be. We want to hear any quick tips that you have from your family, from your background, from your experiences that we could share with our listeners today. Our call-in number is 362-0013. If you're listening out of the area on the web, that's 845-362-0013. Or you could email us at patricia@patriciastark.com. So again, confidence quick tips today. Lynn, you know this has happened to you. I mean, this happens to everybody. We're running out, we're ready to go somewhere, we think we've got all our ducks in a row, and all of a sudden something happens, or something breaks, or rips, or we can't find something, or it's a bad hair day, a bad manicure day all of a sudden, you name it.
That happens to me as well. And yes, I can, just the other night, we were going to an event. I had a dress all planned. I went to put the dress on, and there was a button that had come off on the back. At that point, it was too late to do a safety pin, which could have worked. But I had a second outfit, thank goodness, and I just made a quick change, and that's what you have to do sometimes, is make it happen very quickly.
And these really do sound like very frivolous things as we're going to be talking about them, I'm sure. But when it's you that this is happening to, and you're running, and you have someplace that you got to be, and you got to be on, and you got to be up, and you got to be ready to go, these things can really cause a lot of stress. Again, if it's a public speaking event, or it is a job interview, or an event like we were at the other night. Lynn and I were both at that event. And here's my story about that event. I was honored to be asked to MC the RBWN Awards dinner in Nyack, New York, at the Rockland Business Women's Network. And I was working all day. You know, we're all juggling a lot of things. We all have a lot on our plate. And for whatever reason, and women can relate to this, maybe not so much men, I was just having a bad hair day. And I mean bad, right? So I was running around, got home, quickly changed, and no matter what I did, my hair was falling in my face. Now, again, this doesn't sound like such a big deal, but when you're the one that's got to be up in front of the room at the microphone, setting the tone for the evening, getting everybody pumped up, enjoying the evening, and you're the one in the spotlight at the mic, you can't have your hair falling in your face because you can't read your notes, you can't see people, you don't want to look like you're fussing with yourself. So I had to put everything in a smaller bag, and I really had no place to keep stuff. So I'm not going to bring my larger bag that I carry with me that has everything in it usually. So I got this little 99-cent can of hairspray from the pharmacy, right? And I knew I had it. And I'm thinking, this is not going to fit in this little bag. I mean, women out there, you know, these little stupid evening bags that we have to wear with our nice dresses to events are tiny. They're ridiculously tiny, but they're cute and we love them and they're adorable, but they really don't fit a whole heck of a lot, right? So I had just the essentials in there that I needed. So what did I do? I said, you know what? This is a 99-cent can of my favorite hairspray that I know is going to work, that's going to keep the hair out of my face. I carried it in with me. I got there early. I got into the restroom that I knew that I would be using, and I stashed it in a place where nobody else would find it. So I knew that I had my own hairspray in the bathroom in case this bad, humid, horrible hair day continued. And I said to myself, I know I'm going to forget it. I know I'm going to leave it in there. And I said, so be it if I do. It's, one of those little travel sections in the pharmacy department.
Some other woman is going to find that and be like,
who desperately needs it, is going to say, there is a God. There is a hairspray in here. But of course, lo and behold, I left it behind. So this goes back to this kind of, fantasy that I had as a kid. I don't know if I grew up in the 70s, and Let's Make a Deal was a big show back then, and Monty Hall was the game show host, and everything was about making a deal. What did this cost if you have this one? And he would always do this one thing, and I can't remember if it was the beginning or the end of the show, where he'd walk through the audience, and I always had this fantasy about, I'm going to be in that audience one day, right? And the show stopped. Of course, I never got my chance, but he would come around and he'd say, I will give you $10 if you have a nail file in your bag, or I'll give you $20 if you have a safety pin. I mean, the most obscure things. I mean, maybe even a canned ham at one point, whatever it may be. But so I had this fantasy that I was going to get this huge bag and I was going to fill it with every possible thing this man could have possibly asked for. And I was going to show up in that audience. So no matter what he came up and he asked me, I was going to have it. So I translated this years later to what I called my Murphy's Law bag. And what I would do is I would carry this extra bag in my larger bag or suitcase or my briefcase or whatever it was. And darn it, that was going to be my bag in case anything went wrong. And it was going to have nail glue in it and deodorant and hairspray and safety pins and anything that in case all broke loose and something happened, I was going to have something with me just in case something went wrong to derail me. And these days now, if I've gone into some of these makeup department stores, now I'm seeing these things called emergency kits. And it's the same little idea. Right. And it's got a sewing kit in there and a mouthwash, a portable toothpaste or something like all these little different things just for those times when anything can go wrong, and it probably will and it probably does. They have these things out there now. So I think they're just fantastic.
I think so too. And I often find that I think maybe our bags are getting bigger just because we all want to carry all this stuff around. I have to ask you, I hate to put you on the spot.
Oh, Lynn's about to put me on the spot.
I am. What do you do about the broken heel? I never could really figure that one out. Is there something? Because I lived in the city and I caught my heel in the grates a few times.
Okay. You have to be, and it doesn't always work, but my father worked in shoe business years ago and turned into a little bit of a MacGyver of shoemakers, and he showed me one time how to do this. And it doesn't always work, and you need a hammer and you need a nail. And what he did is he showed me how to pull up the back of the tongue of the inside of the shoe to expose the wood area that connects the heel shank to the inside. And if you can do it, and you got to do it on a hard surface, if you can pound that nail from the top of that shoe deep into that heel, you can get away with it on occasion, but it depends on how the shoe is made and how good of a nail hammerer person you are.
I'm a good nail hammerer person.
But I got all kind of these great examples. That's why I'm saying, please call in if you can think about what your mom, your grandmother, your father, your grandfather, little tips and tricks that they had. Our number is 362-0013, 362-0013. We want to hear it, because here were some of my other tips that my dad gave me. If you scuff a shoe, if it's black or dark, and you really open up an area to where it looks white, or there's like a beige area or whatever, I mean, people notice our shoes, whether we think so or not. If you're on an interview or you're going out and everything, people notice whether your shoes are in disrepair or not. I mean, I think one fashion person that I heard on the air not that long ago had said, you can buy the most inexpensive clothing, but if you invest in great shoes and a pocketbook, everyone will assume that everything else you're wearing is of good quality, right? So he told me that always carry a black Sharpie marker with you, because you can touch up any shoe where the scuff is if it's a dark shoe. And I got to tell you, I have one pair of shoes that's probably 80 years old at this point, and I have taken a black Sharpie marker to this shoe more than you can imagine, and it looks brand new.
I actually have a tip about shoes because I sold shoes at one point in my life. And this gentleman it was Macy's Herald Square, and this man had been selling shoes forever. And he showed me that when you take your shoe out, you know how sometimes around the edge where it's seamed, sometimes strings get loose.
Yes.
You take a lighter and you just go around the inside of that shoe so that it burns off those little strings, because that kind of looks yucky.
Yeah, it looks tattered.
And I do that all the time now. I find even on things, not necessarily shoes, but I've been known to take it to the side of a little rug that kind of the fiber starts to spin out.
911, Lynn's house is burning. You got to be careful, obviously, with any of this.
Don't try this at home. Is that what we're supposed to say?
Yeah. But to burn it gets it really close, and that's a really great idea.
Yeah.
And another tip that my dad had was, let's say you can't get to the shoemaker and your shoes are just looking terrible and you want to shine them up and you have no shoe shine. Take a little cloth and some Vaseline and rub it around the outside of the shoe area. And this works for handbags or leather or even probably a leather jacket. And that will give it that kind of instant little gloss and moisture that it needs to not look so bad.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, my dad was so good that one time I was in an event that shall remain nameless, and I needed my shoes to match my, let's just say, outfit. And I only had black sandals. My dad took acrylic paint and turned a pair of black sandals into light pink pastel sandals. They were material sandals. They were like a cloth.
Swag,
yes, but he did it. So I think this is where a little bit of my MacGyver, or at least my love for MacGyver, comes about. And if any of you don't remember that show, that was like I guess an 80s or 90s show where this guy could just fix everything with duct tape and whatever he could be. So let's talk a little bit more about some things. You know, little wet wipes and antibacterial hand wipes. I love these.
I know you do.
Oh my goodness. And not just for the antibacterial properties, but just wet wipes in general. Work on cleaning up things. Again, they can be a quick shoe shine, but antibacterial hand wipes can be, and I stand by, a deodorant when you've forgotten your deodorant. Okay, so let's just say now you're running out to that big event or job interview or speech or whatever it may be, and you thought you put your deodorant on, and now you realize that you didn't. You keep antibacterial hand wipes in your briefcase or in the car or whatever, and you don't want to do this too much because they can be drying, but you wipe that under your arm, and what it does is it kind of helps with, it dries it a little bit so that you're not perspiring as much, but it actually helps the antibacterial properties with any possible smell. So it works as a quick deodorant in a pinch. Again, I'm not recommending this all the time, but you have them on you anyway.
Wait, I think we have a caller. Right guard's on the phone.
I don't work for them, and this is not an endorsement of them. Okay, so that's something that really works. And another thing that when I travel a lot, and women that are on the road a lot traveling, sometimes you ever get your jewelry that tangles into knots.
Oh, yes.
Right? You keep some things together in one bag, or even at home when we throw our jewelry together. If you're running out at the last minute, and that was the necklace that you needed for that outfit, and you're going to sit there and try to get them apart, it's really a disaster. So I don't remember who I got this tip from. I think it was from a wardrobe stylist on some shoot that I was on many years ago. She said, you know those little plastic resealable tiny bags that you get that have the extra buttons in them when you buy clothing? She said, take the buttons out, put them into like a button box or whatever, because half the time, I mean, do we ever really use those buttons? Probably not. So take those little tiny bags and put each individual small necklaces or chains in those and keep them like that when you travel or in your jewelry box or jewelry bag or whatever, and nothing will ever get tangled.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But if it does get tangled, this was my idea. Take the two tangled necklaces, put a little olive oil, take it on a flat surface, pour a little olive oil onto it, get two tweezers and start separating it, and you'd be amazed how fast those knots come out.
Wow, that's a good, I didn't know that. I've done the safety pin thing, but it's very time consuming and tedious.
I know. And here, and a lot of these are for women, but we're going to get to some men's stuff, I promise. But another one, years ago, my first internship was down at MTV in Manhattan, and this is during the late 80s, early 90s, when they actually still played music on MTV. And there was this one VJ on there named Carolyn Heldman. She was from like out west somewhere. And I remember that my earring backing fell off of my earring, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And back then we wore the really big earrings, so you couldn't wear just one. She came up to me with a pencil, and she broke off the eraser from the pencil and said, "Here, stick this onto the back of your earring." And that thing held that thing better than my earring backing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Isn't that a really good one?
Yep.
I loved that one. Another thing is that sometimes if your clasp breaks on your briefcase or your pocketbook or a zipper, even on like a jacket or on pants or whatever it may be, you know, where just that top clasp comes off, but you can still see where the loop is, where
Yes.
the other end of the zipper would have been.
Yes.
What you can do is, if you go to Lowe's or one of these places where you get extra small key rings, you take the key ring and you can match it. You can get it in gold or silver, and you put that through the remaining part of the top head of the zipper, and now you have a pull area again so that you don't have to replace the zipper.
Oh.
I've done that too. I did that on a really nice Tory Burch pocketbook, and nobody knows that it's a Lowe's key ring that's helping me open my bag. Again, any confidence quick tips, and people may be listening right now saying, this is called Inside and Out, and this is about communicating with confidence internally and externally, and that's what we talk about every week. But it's true. These are little things that could throw you off or get you stressed out, or that's part of you putting your best foot forward out into the world, all have an effect on whether we're frazzled, whether things are happening at the last minute. One big one that I talk about is that how many times have you been in a rush to go to an important thing and you realize that you only have less than a quarter of a tank of gas? This happens a lot to people that I know, to myself, and I started getting in the habit, and I recommend this to people when they come to me for a big audition or an interview or whatever. I'm like, you make sure that the night before or on your way home from wherever you were the previous day, that's when you get into the habit of getting gas, because there is nothing worse than having to be someplace, knowing that you're running late, and then all of a sudden saying, in addition, I have to find gas and stop for it and take the time to do that. So getting into the habit of getting gas long before you need it, or at least the day before. And it really is just a good rule of thumb. A lot of people get it on their way out. Always get it on your way home. When you're heading home from wherever it is, if that's when you get gas, you'll never be without gas when you're heading out, wherever it is the next day.
Preparation is important. It is part of making you feel more confident when you are prepared.
Yes.
In every way.
Absolutely. And talk about some other interesting little lifesavers. I like to call these lip balm lifesavers, and these apply to men and women. So let's say that your manicure isn't that fresh, or let's say that you are a man and you've been working out in your garden or doing landscaping all weekend, and now you have a meeting or a presentation on Monday or whatever it may be, and you scrub it, but they just still look dried out, your cuticles don't look great, whatever it may be, or you're going to be in close quarters with somebody where you're going to be taking notes, and people notice our hands. Just taking a little lip balm and rubbing it into the cuticle on both men and women will always make the fingers and the hands just look like they were manicured. They'll just look better. They won't look all dried and cracked and bitten and things like that. And then also during times where you might be getting sunburn or windburn, or even during the winter, many times when people are blowing their nose a lot, especially now with like cold and flu season, they'll get little dryness around the end of their nose, or it'll be red. And again, if you're in an interview situation or in a situation where you're on a date or meeting somebody for the first time, if you get a little dry piece around your nose, people could think it's a boogie, my friend. And you don't want them to be thinking that. So another place for a little bit, Lynn is losing it right now that I just said boogie on the radio.
And my friend.
So take a little lip balm and rub it around the area around your nostrils every time after you blow your nose, and you won't get that dryness in that area, which will also help with, your lips. I'm just a big fan of carrying lip balm because, hey, it makes you look like you got a good manicure. You're not going to anybody have that boogie hanging out of your nose.
And if all else fails, put it on your lips.
Oh, it also works on your toes, by the way, for a quick little pedicure. Another thing is when you get those new shoes. Again, both men and women, if you're wearing shoes for the first time out to that big meeting or interview or date or whatever it may be, they are slippery on the bottom. So you don't want to come literally sliding into that meeting or event or date or something.
Like a Kramer.
That's right, exactly. So another trick from my dad, who was the MacGyver of shoes, he said, everybody usually has sandpaper in your home. If you don't, you should, or at least a big fat nail file. Sandpaper the bottom of your shoes just a little bit to get that high shine from the factory off, and you won't fall and slip on your face.
The other thing you can do with that as well, if you don't have the sandpaper, and is just take the shoe out to the front porch where it's a little concrete and just rub it a little bit too, which will rough up the surface of your shoe.
I agree, and I actually had remembered doing that myself when I've already been outside of the house or didn't have any sandpaper.
That was you just scraping your
hand.
2 feet on the ground.
That's right. And here's another interesting one. I do a lot of, because I work in front of the camera as well, I have done a lot of medical news over the years. I did 10 years as a news anchor for a program called MDTV Medical News Now. So I've learned a lot. I have a lot of strange and useless health information floating around in the back of my head, but also a lot of helpful information. And I had this one doctor on one time that was talking about people complaining about getting colds and flus. And you can still get a cold, or a summer cold, or whatever it may be. And he said that the biggest culprit of this isn't so much getting them from other people. He says what happens is that people will get a cold or a flu, they'll brush their teeth, and then they won't replace their toothbrush afterwards, and no matter how much you rinse off your toothbrush, the bacteria is still in there, so you can keep reinfecting yourself and not even realize it. So he offered up 3 really important tips that I thought were great. If you have something like a Listerine or a Crest Pro Health, which is my new fave, or whatever it is, after you brush your teeth, pour that all over your toothbrush and let it air dry wherever you hang your toothbrush, and that will kill bacteria. Another great place is stick your toothbrush in the windowsill during the day, and the UV rays will kill bacteria. But what he really liked and what he really felt people should be doing...
Do you have to put sunscreen on it?
No. What he really liked was, if you've been sick or had a cold or flu, throw out your toothbrush and get a new one.
I think there's some type of rule of thumb that you should change a toothbrush, I think, like every 3 months or something. I don't know. That's what
it is. It's something like that. And, just like there is a rule of thumb about other things that we don't
always do. Exactly.
But I think that was a great recommendation.
That is a good one.
That even if you got a new one, if you got sick,
right,
you need to be doing stuff like this, because that next big event or that big thing that you're planning for, you don't want to be sick for that, and you may not even realize that the culprit is on your own toothbrush. So here are some other quick tips. Do you lose energy throughout the day, Lynn? I know I do. Do you poop at parties? Never. Do you need a little vitamin Benjamin? So here are some things that we can do. Again, in my other life where I work in front of the camera, I've done a lot of things called health tips for Prevention Magazine, and these would air, like, let's say you're in the pharmacy checking out, and there's like a little video machine there, and there'll be all like little tips of like how to kind of stay healthy, things like that. So this is where I got some of these from. So here's a fast and simple way to kind of feel like you're going to get a little perked up. Rub your earlobes. Take your earrings off if you're wearing them. If you're a man, just rub your earlobes, because this is an acupressure trick. It clears your head, and it actually dulls pain above your neck if you're getting a little bit of that dull head or whatever it may be. But it really does kind of clear your head. Again, if you have to go into a situation where you're dealing with communications, drink a glass of water, because dehydration will wear you down even before you're thirsty. Apparently, when you feel thirsty, you're already beyond the point. You shouldn't ever have to feel thirsty. That means you're already dehydrated, and you won't think quick on your feet, and you won't be clear. Laugh and laugh out loud, especially if you're going into a confrontational phone call, or you've got to give that speech, or you're doing something where you're getting a little bit of that heart rate going up and you're feeling a little nervous. It improves your mood, and it actually makes you be more daring. After you've laughed, studies show that you're a little bit more ready to take on or tackle a challenge or something that's coming your way. Taking deep breaths. I always recommend this to try to calm the heart rate and to kind of, get the blood pressure under control, but it does energize you because it moves oxygen throughout your body. And finally, and you had mentioned sunblock before, but we're not supposed to become mushrooms either. We need sun. We need vitamin D for our health, and studies have shown that vitamin D is now helping with cancer and all of these other things. But the other thing with sunlight is that it stimulates neurotransmitters in your brain like serotonin and dopamine, which increase motivation. So I say ditch the sunglasses. If you're on your way, again, to an audition, an interview, a big meeting, a date, meeting with friends where you want to be at your best, whatever it may be, for two reasons. If you ditch the sunglasses, you've got that sunlight getting you up, getting you in a great mood, getting those neurotransmitters kicking in, but then you also won't get the dreaded opti indentis, which I call it. That is those horrible marks on the sides of your nose that just look horrible once you take your sunglasses off. And Lynn, to call you out, I think you have a little opti indentis going on right now.
I'm sure I do, because I'm always wearing sunglasses year-round.
Again, our number is 362-0013, and no one has called in with any
I know,
tips.
we may have to start calling people.
I was really hoping to get some newer tips that we could share with some of the folks here. So, I don't know, maybe people will think a little bit later. If after we get off the air or you're listening on YouTube after we post this and you have some tips that you could add to what's going on here, send them to us on email at patricia@patriciastark.com. That's patricia@patriciastark.com. Our website is patriciastark.com. And at any time, if you want to catch any of these shows and you want to listen again, you want to listen however many times you want to, if you go to youtube.com/patriciastark.com, not .com, not like a .com, it just stands for short for communications. So it's youtube.com/patriciastark.com, C-O-M. You can be able to access any of our radio shows and listen to them again or share them with friends or whatever it may be. A good friend of mine, Mary Claire, who is a teleprompter operator, she knows that I do these little confidence quick tips for people and for people that I train, and sometimes I hire her to help me with some of the training for some of the on-camera people that I deal with. And she heard me talking about some of that, what we talked about earlier with the deodorant, with the antibacterial wipe. But she said sometimes she has the opposite problem where if she uses deodorant, it gets on her black dress or it gets on her whatever it may be wearing. I mean, we've all experienced this, and men not so much because they don't wear literally sleeveless stuff unless they're in a tank top like women, but we'll notice this. I mean, what's the classic go-to little black dress that we all wear to every event? If you're not wearing a certain type of deodorant that's clear or you applied it right before you went on, many times you'll start to see the little white residue from that. Now, where I think that the antibacterial hand wipe will also work for this, she had a great one that she said that she uses a lot where she carries a clean makeup sponge and that she just dampens that with a little bit of water and rubs on it, and that way there's no leave behind from the bacterial wipe or from a tissue paper or a paper towel or something like that, and then that worked really well. So I thought that was a brilliant idea too. So that will now be in my Murphy's Law bag.
That's a good one.
All right, so a couple more. What time do we have here? We got a few more minutes left. So here's one. Think twice before you reach for your favorite cologne or perfume if you're going on a job interview or a first date. Studies show that the human brain doesn't respond well to artificial fragrances and can actually be repulsed by them. Ooh. Interesting, right?
I think that's, I have to say that I think that you should always refrain from wearing perfume or aftershave, especially on an interview.
Well, you know why? Because not only because it might not read well with them, do you really want to take the chance that you might be wearing the scent of someone's ex-wife or ex-husband or somebody they don't like?
No, that's
going to go over like not.
Yeah, that's true. And people may be allergic or just may be sensitive to it.
And on a date, remember our scent
first
is
date anyway. Yeah,
right. Scent is the sense of memory. So when we smell things, boy, does that bring things back really quickly. So again, if this is an interview or that first date, and all of a sudden you're smelling like a bad memory, you're done. Here's another one. The next time that you want to make a good impression, use your head, literally. New research shows that when we are talking with somebody, that if we tilt our head to the right, people see us as more trustworthy. When we tilt our head to the left, people see us as more attractive. So I guess depending on if you want somebody to trust you more or think you're hot, you might want to decide which side of the head you're turning. So
Just
again,
be careful you don't become a bobblehead.
Exactly. I'm trying to be smart. I'm trying to be
this way.
attractive. I'm trying to be smart. I'm trying to be attractive. So depending on your goal, you might tilt your head to the right during a job interview and maybe tilt it to the left on the first date. But again, you're right. You don't want to become bobblehead. But here was an interesting thing that I had heard recently where when men listen to other women or other men, they keep their head up very straight and they really look you very direct and they're really listening very intently. Women, on the other hand, have the tendency to tilt their head. And again, it doesn't matter in this case if it's to the left or the right, but we tend to tilt our head. And I hate to say this, but almost like a dog when the dog listens to you and tries to figure out what you're saying. And apparently, even though we're in the habit of doing this, which to another woman or to a child is actually very engaging and very like, yes, I want to listen to you, I'm really here for you kind of thing.
Connecting.
But it can be misread by a man that it almost looks like we're deferring to them or that we're not as strong and head on. So in men and women communication, when you are engaging with a man, try and keep your head up straight and direct and really look them right in the eye. Try not to do that head tilt that really does work amongst other women and children, but probably not with another man in a business situation. I found that very interesting, and I really pay attention to it now when I'm listening because I tend to be a listener, and when we want to show someone we're listening, we tend to do that head tilt. But men, not so much. And I think that we are just about out of time. I have so many more. We'll have to do another Confidence Quick Tips for another show. But please tune in again next week when we visit more confidence communication tips inside and out. And make it a great day.
Have a great day.